Hey, 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 welcome back. Welcome back to today's spiritual nutrition vlog. Today, I wanted to talk about hypervigilance from childhood survival to healing and purpose. And I also do an oracle spread after based on the topic. So stay for that. And if you have questions, always feel free to leave them in the comment bar. All right. Hypervigilance you know, is not talked about. And it's not talked about because it's such a quirky character trait. It's when we're in that overstimulation of hypervigilance, we're stuck and frozen. This can make us feel inadequate, and when we don't feel good about ourselves and, we're called to perform, whether that's in work or just within life, a lot of times we can self-sabotage ourselves because of this hypervigilance. And like I said, it's something that we don't talk about, but I wanted to talk about it because it's affecting so many people, like within their relationships and also with how they feel about themselves. And so when we want to stay spiritually clean, we want to be coming from the best part of ourself, right? The best part of ourself is that God part of self, which is made up of unconditional love. It's that we have empathy, we can have compassion, we can forgive, we're in these high vibrational energies of happiness, joy, and passion. But if we're spiritually blocked because we're stuck in our trauma, and again, a sign of being stuck in your trauma is hypervigilance. Hypervigilance isn't just a buzzword, though it is a buzzword in the psychology realm. It's a profound embodied way of being that grows from early childhood, from that ecosystem that you learn to survive in. And that was through fear, through silence, and subsurface threats, subconsciously. It begins as a survival instinct, and the body learns to read the room with almost supernatural accuracy, noticing the slightest shifts in tone, posture, and energy that others tend to miss. This heightened sensory intelligence becomes a double-edged sword, a shield that had kept us safe at one time, safe in the moment, but definitely a chronic catalyst for anxiety, physical tension, and a sense of crushing responsibility long after the danger has passed. Again, today I want to trace how hypervigilance forms in our childhood. Share a personal story of growing up in an alcoholic abusive home, described how that vigilance evolved for me in a nuisance and just many times an overwhelming sensitivity to the point that I was stuck in freeze. In childhood, when the nervous system is, in a constant state of calibration, when danger is not just a rare, like, occasion, but a daily rhythm, raised voices, unpredictable moods, and just a feel of the room thick and heavy with unspoken rules, the body learns to anticipate. The brain's threat detection circuitry becomes so finely tuned, the amygdala becomes a fast responder. The prefrontal cortex develops savvy about social cues. And the automatic nervous system learns into the sympathetic arousal, adrenaline, heightened senses, a readiness to act. This is not a pathology. It is a natural adaptation to a setting where safety is fragile and cues are ambiguous. Spiritual psychology and transpersonal frameworks describes this as an alignment with the energetic laws of the environment. And epigenetic tells us that it's our environment that creates our reality because we form habits and behaviorisms that are in alignment with those perceptions. The world is perceived as a field of force, tonal shifts of voice, a slammed or closed door, or a whirl of just noises that can signal danger or just disapproval. Even when there's no threat around, okay? As a child, my instincts were to interpret those signals as messages about my safety, my belonging, and whether I was safe in the future. In a household where the atmosphere was unstable, I learned to inhibit a state of continuous perception, a psychic attentiveness to subtleties and the tone and the posture and the breathing and the space between words. This is how hypervigilance begins. It's not a flaw, but as an adaptive response to a tumultuous home environment. Now, my body's immune system were primed by chronic stress. Cortisol persists. My stomach was always bloated. The HP axis tuned into to predict threat, and every social exchange became a potential trigger because we see what we look for. And if you're conditioned in an environment where you're taught not to trust your main caregiver, you're going to form habits and behaviorisms that are sabotaging later on in life. My instincts to trust my instincts, to notice the subtleties that most people overlook, I had to depend on it, even when the environment was telling me not to. It served a purpose. It helped me survive in a house where my mother's emotions were erratic and her erratic behavior, and my father's illness set the tempo of life. Growing up with a psychological and emotional and sometimes physically abusive mother and an alcoholic father who was constantly and, like I said, physically ill. He had cancer more than 8 times. Literally. And that's not talking about the upper and lower back surgeries, the 2 hip replacements, and the gout that was so bad that he grew bone over bone. It created a household economy of fear and just uncertainty because everybody was always frozen, including my parents, who I perceive as that they were spiritually sick. They were very good people and they were nice people. People loved them, but they didn't love themselves. And so spiritual illness comes from not liking ourselves. And if we've grown up in an environment where we have been psychologically and emotionally gaslit to believe a reality about ourselves, well, you better believe we're going to form habits and behaviorisms that are going to be more in alignment with our survival and not in alignment with our true self, our higher self, the God part of ourself. We have to be in that energy of unconditional love by becoming the expression of love, by doing what we love. That's how we give and receive of love. That's how we're able to have an open heart chakra. But if you grew up in hypervigilance, that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to be trained to look for problems in the environment, and those problems are going to manifest. They will play out as karmic themes within your life. It's a spiritual thing. What we resist persists. So we feel inadequate due to the hypervigilance, and then the actions or lack of action makes one feel inadequate because they don't like what they manifest from not acting appropriately because that energy of being frozen and overstimulated has taken over. So, again, what happens is, again, you wind up paying attention to everything. Like a single breath, a tremor in a voice, a shift in weight, just in a chair can signal like that you're not safe and that you have to react, this survival mode. So I had to trust my instincts in the contents as a natural defense. My mind became just a seer for cues. This is how my psychic gifts actually came about, because your gifts come from living in that environment, and that's the gifts that trauma brings, because everything, there's a flip side to everything. So we can get stuck up in the story of what has happened, which that is not why I share my story today with my parents. I share my story because it was a spiritual illness that I had inherited. And again, and it starts with hypervigilance, and it makes one feel inadequate. It makes one feel that there's something wrong with themselves. And then habits and behaviorisms are built on that. So that's what this story is about. It's about, understanding that every bad situation that you can again pull something magical out of it, believe it or not. Sometimes it takes a long time because, like I said, we can get stuck in the story. But understand, from that environment, like I said, it was being molded at the same time to become more psychic, more attentive. I became acutely aware of not just what was being said, but what was being unsaid, the unspoken contract that governs every intention. And understand, this is exactly where hypervigilance weaves itself into my very being and became a lifelong habit of scanning people and predicting and just trying to create comfort and safety, because the perception was that person doesn't like me and there might be a threat because of that environment. The goal all the time was simple, and it was to prevent pain, prevent emotional pain, prevent physical, psychological, and preserve a sense of just overall safety in a world that felt extremely unstable and not safe. Again, yet this vigilance came, like, even though it gave me these gifts, as I said, it came with such a very high cost. And what people will notice is when they live in hypervigilance for long periods of time, they wind up getting a compromised immune system, because the same sensitivity that helped me read the room turned into also, like, other not just physical issues, like having an overly sensitive nervous system, and that nervous system is what you know controls your immune system and your endocrine system. So these spiritual blockages that were created in the spiritual mind, in the spiritual body, because of, again, living at a balance for long periods of time, again, affected my health. I had asthma, I had kidney stones, I had my immune system. I couldn't get life insurance at 19 years old. I was always sick. But also understand that the same sensitivity that helped me read the room and stay safe, and like made me into a people pleaser, like in a default mode, because I was reading people's moods and their intentions as potential threats or disapprovals, where I learned to overextend myself to keep the peace, to avoid conflict at all costs, and prevent the emergence of discomfort in others. The result is a pattern of behavior that aims to avert bullying and just segregation, oppression, all of it, all of it. Again, anything that takes us out of our true self, our higher self. But again, that's the environment has made, and it's usually with a parent that is bullying, angry, so angry that they're emotionally manipulating their child, making their child feel responsible for their happiness. Because that parent never learned how to spiritually cleanse themselves, how to heal. What are we going to run off to a therapist every single time? I mean, we should know how to integrate the spiritual lessons so we can stay spiritually clean. So it actually assists the therapist to help that they can just focus on rewiring your brain, your mind. But the therapist a lot of times has to peel layers and layers and layers and layers because there has been no integration. There has been no healing. The hypervigilance is a state of that. Because again, the body and mind are self-healing organisms. As you heal your mind, you incorporate new habits, new behaviorisms that rewire you. That is so you don't stay the same. There's many different realities that play at one time. Why are you living a reality that keeps you stuck in a place of disempowerment? You wouldn't choose to do so. You just wouldn't, and it's important to be the alchemist of your life. Understand the result of patterns and behavior that always have to create harmony is an admirable one, but it's also a very impulsive one. That before you know it, you're volunteering to bake 1,000 cupcakes for the school, when meanwhile you already work two full-time jobs and take care of, you know, whoever you take care of, and you're trying to move ahead, and you just really don't have the time to do that. But it doesn't matter. It's more about being liked. It's more about being accepted. It's more about being included. You see how neediness is born from a place of hypervigilance, because the person already feels that they're inadequate. So again, we have to see again that in adulthood, we don't want to be burdened. We don't want to, morph into, a perpetual need to meet other people's expectations, because guess what? You will never. And if you rely on other people to make you happy, you will never be happy. You have to, again, fill your own cup up. That's how we stay spiritually clean. We have to love ourselves and fill ourselves up enough and connect with other people that, hey, you make me feel good. You have a good energy. You know what I'm saying? That's what we want. We want to have something like that. We want to, just be free of fear and the need to have judgment, because that judgment will also create overstimulation. As the years pass, the body's memory of the early environments linger. Now, understand, because I've created a whole new life for myself. And, and so it's about learning also how not to respond sometimes, because what will feel correct will also be sabotaging. So when we have have been conditioned to have hypervigilance, we have to really stop and be grounded, because we don't want to react from those already programmed neurological pathways. The neurological pathways in the mind were created from the actions and behaviorisms that you had to create in order to survive. They were built on those perceptions. So we have to again really be present, really be in the moment. And it's really about being in a faith walk, kind of, where you're really relying on that higher self, that God part of self, which happens in the now, meaning your intuition comes on randomly. There's always a call to action. We don't force anything. You want to make sure that you recondition the immune system, because my immune system that was shaped by chronic stress, and it began to respond as danger, like all the time, even when there wasn't any, like in the, so, like type like jaw, constant headaches, sleep disturbances, and just chronic anxiety and depression because your whole spiritual equilibrium is off. And you will see that the body and mind, there is a disconnect when the spiritual equilibrium is off. Coordination is off. It's like everything's either delayed or slower, or it's because energetically it's been thrown off. That's why people do things like energy psychology, something our society doesn't know anything about. But over in China, they're doing somatic healing already because they know how to keep the body clear of that trauma, even though you don't have to go back and remember it. You don't have to embody it all. If you say, well, I'm afraid I'm going to get stuck in hypervigilance, well, you don't have to. You can actually do somatic healing, but we notice that tension in the body is a sign that there's tension in the mind. So again, we want to, you know, incorporate like something that's going to, give us care, empathy, tenderness. We want to do that for ourselves when we again are so emotional. Because understand it's not just merely mental, it's emotional. It's a somatic experience, which is why I said you can do somatic healing to release that trauma, that tension without even having to go back into the experience. You have to remember your body is a magnet for what you are attracting into your life. And so with each attraction is a karmic theme, and that karmic theme is going to play out and gives you an opportunity to change the outcome, to allows you to see yourself different, to embody a whole new consciousness, because that's really what healing is. Healing is about seeing a different perception of your situation. See, God is all knowing. We're not. We get stuck in the perception of how we perceive things are, but are those things real? They aren't real. They're our perception due to whatever we've lived. That's why it's difficult to sometimes work with people because they're not on your wavelength, they're not on your vibration, they're not on your level. But then you say, but then why are they here in my energy? To learn, to grow, to heal, to forgive. Usually, it's all about forgiveness, right? So that's why they say hurt people. And that's really that keeps us in a place of fear. If we have hypervigilance, then guess what? We know that we have fear. We are holding on to fear. So it's again, we want to be able to release that fear because that fear is what's creating the tension, making it difficult for your blood to flow, making it very difficult for the blood to bring your cells and organ tissues oxygen and nutrients. So it's really important. You know, Healing for me, I had to incorporate a whole new diet, and I am a certified holistic health coach along with a psychic medium because of that was my path in order to heal myself. Healing for me began when the impulse to protect expanded into a deeper understanding of myself and a reseeding of my inner landscape with safety rather than fear. In my own journey, I moved through a spectrum of modalities to learn cognitive therapy to reframe unhealthy narratives, EFT, emotional freedom technique to release stuck emotions in the body, breath work to calm the nervous system, and meditation to cultivate a spacious, non-judgmental awareness. I'm certified in a lot of other things as well. And do I think that my healing, like I believe that my healing program that I offer for $7.99 a month is definitely worth the money because it has inner child healing, shadow healing, reparenting, and all the healing modalities to help you heal the effects of trauma. It's just done in a group. Now, people that have severe trauma, is that a good place for them to start? Well, I mean, really, you should consider something that's going to be more like like more of a brain-based therapy. That's because it's like, again, you have to recondition a lot and you have to, so working in a group would not be good, to like, it would be good in conjunction with working with a trauma specialist, but if this is just hypervigilance because you have old childhood trauma and you keep attracting the same types of relationships, which by the way, there are going to be relationships that are narcissistic, relationships that, are difficult, kind of have difficult personality, because again, it's the whole thing is designed, I should say, the karmic experience is designed to trigger your hypervigilance so you can heal it. So understand, in order to heal hypervigilance, you have to recondition the nervous system. And that's done with breath work, that's done with tapping, that's done with energy work. A lot of people don't realize that, again, because we don't talk about it. We don't talk about like how it's held, that stress is held within the body. But each place that it's held in the body represents a psychological and emotional imbalance, but it also represents a physical imbalance eventually, because our chakras are in alignment with our endocrine system. And so the chakras are manipulated by our thoughts and our emotions. Again, we're only in physical form to learn and to manifest. So from a spiritual perception, we really have to heal the root of that. So again, the goal is not to erase sensitivity, but more to align in it with healthier boundaries, clearer self-compassion, and just a grounded sense of safety that needs to come from inside of you rather from external conditions alone. Because again, those external conditions are not forever. They're usually temporary. Now, in this reweaving spiritual and transpersonal paradigms offer just a powerful lens. The law of resonance and receptivity, and echoed in many spiritual traditions, suggests that energy follows attention. So again, what we put out is what we get back. By directing attention towards self-kindness, inner sovereignty, and compassion, resonates with others. Anyone can transform hypervigilance from an anxious reflex into a discerning, healing presence. Shadow work, it's again why you want to join my shadow healing coaching program, is just an honest exploration of hidden fears, beliefs, and impulses that become essential by acknowledging what you learn as a child, choosing new meanings. You're able to find your purpose. Today, the inner work translates into outer contributions. For me, I harness the sensitivity sharpened by hypervigilance to assist those who suffer from similar patterns. A psychic capacity to sense energy, to read undercurrents, and to tune to unspoken needs have become my compassionate tool. I love to do this. This is the spirit behind my psychic soul healer oracle system, actually. You know, this book, I mean, these cards come with a book that has over 100 different exercises, literally, 30 just oracle spreads like that teach you how to clear your ancestral karma, that teaches you about yourself. But it's not just that, is multi-purposeful. This oracle system is a framework that blends intuitive insights with practices for healing modalities designed to support anyone navigating hypervigilance and trauma responses. The Shadow Healing Coaching Program emerges from the conviction that true healing must address both the light and the shadow, the bright intuitive gifts and the difficult and so many times just painful undercurrents that drive behaviors like people pleasing and avoidance of bullying and the trance of vigilance. Child healing, shadow healing, reparenting, and trauma healing modalities are not just mere therapies. They're not. There actually are real pathways to restore our delicate equilibrium between safety and freedom. The aim is to help my clients rewire the nervous system, default settings, establish healthier boundaries, and cultivate a compassionate use of their sensitivity. Why do they have it? Because even though, like, we may see it as a hindrance, there's actually gifts that come with your sensitivity. Healing becomes just a practice of aligning the body and the body's emotions, the mental narrative, and the energetic field, so that hypervigilance serves as more to discern rather than a compulsion, like that's present rather than fear, responsibility with becoming a martyr. Hypervigilance is just a whole body, whole soul condition. So the healing modalities that support it typically operate on multi levels: cognitive, somatic, emotional, and spiritual. And that's what I offer in my Psychic Soul Healer. Now, healing hypervigilance is not about erasing your sensitivity. Remember, it's about refining it. It's about learning when to respond and when to rest, how to set boundaries without withdrawing love, and how to offer your insights without encoding it as judgment. The goal is to transform hypervigilance from chronic vigilance to a guided, compassionate intuition, one that notices safety, yet stays anchored in safety, self respect, and healthy independence. Now, if you carry the imprint of childhood where safety was tumultuous and energy was constant, you've learned a language that many will never hear. Your ability to notice what sits beneath the surface can become a profound gift in your healing room, circle care, families, and communities. The key is to channel that gift into practice that is going to protect your nervous system, honor your boundaries, and sustain your well being so that your sensitivity remains a beacon, not a burden. And understand, when you're on your healing path, you will be brought to the challenges that you were faced that normally brought you down. Because again, it's about seeing yourself differently, it's about embodying a whole new consciousness. Today, the Psychic Soul Healer system and shadow healing coaching program stand as a living testament to what can arise from even the most challenging beginnings, because I created due to my own experiences. So, a disciplined, compassionate, and resonant way of being that just honors your path, heals the present, and just paves like a luminous path for you, known to transform the impossible. As that the same sensitivity that just once kept you alert for and stayed, like, again, hypersensitive to danger, really you're just redirecting to illuminate your healing connection and your true purpose. Now, what underlying beliefs about safety? We're going to start our oracle questions with this, because we are entering into that now. So what you're going to ask is, what underlying beliefs about safety is your hypervigilance focused on? Is it money, trying to protect in this moment? Or is it a person? What is it? What underlying beliefs about safety? Usually they are about money, right? So again, if we focus on money, like, what are we protecting? Well, I would say that's our survival, our money. Anytime we're talking about money, but from the spiritual perspective, it is courage. It's like, okay, so I feel like for a lot of you, you're in hypervigilance because you want to have the courage to do what you want to do for a living, but you don't see the finances coming in. And so there's a sense of you being feeling like, again, being pushed into hypervigilance, almost like I'm going to have to work a job that I don't want to work at, or I'm going to have to like do something that I don't want to do, where really we're allowed to say what we manifest, but we're not allowed to say how we get there because the universe will always bring us what we need to heal. That's why it's more about the journey instead of the end result. See, we all want the end result, and that end result could be like a big paycheck. It could be like, a trip. It could be like you get the love of your life. Whatever it is, we all want that. But Spirit says, have the courage to stand true yourself. And so again, um, focusing too much on the past is like like what has happened, what did happen, and then also like being present in the moment. Keeping your mind in one place is going to help you with that because it doesn't mean, well, guess what? Money comes right away. It's a test. Do you love what you do? Will you stand true to who you are? Will you have the courage to keep going? And there's a part of you that's like, I don't know. And so the Spirit says that, yeah, again, it's never to abandon yourself. Where in your financial life are you over reading subtleties? And it could be like price changes, it could be rumors of what's going to happen as signals of looming threat. Like, what does the universe keep telling you? So it's again power. And so I feel like it's like more about, will you lose, like money is associated with power. So if you're focused on like, oh my God, like the prices are going to go up, you're really looking at money as more of survival and not that it is a currency. So it goes back to having courage to possibly do something that you don't want to do. Think outside the box. Change your routine if something's not working. It's that it doesn't mean that you have to quit what you're doing. What it means is you have to quit the approach because if you're not getting the results that you want, because money has no energy except the energy you give it. So if you sit down and get to a point and say, it's not going to work, it's like, I don't believe in myself. Let me get another job. Let me do something else. Well, then you take yourself off that. So we want to keep our focus and we want to, again, pay attention. We want to pay attention to how, like, I just, to the most subtlety things, like, how does your body respond when you think about money? What happens? Do you get overstimulated? Do you like find that you get anxiety? Do you again? Well, it reveals a lot. It reveals what? What does it reveal? It reveals, let's see. What does it, what does it prickly defenses. So again, you might have barriers caused from past hurts, around money. So again, like I say, barriers are also like, thought beliefs, just the core beliefs of what you believe. And so whenever we think that we have to protect what we have, that means that we're going to lose it. Again, that what the focus is not on the action. The action solidifies the intention, but the intention is I'm going to lose. I'm not going to have enough. The prickly defenses are the barriers caused by the past situations and the hurts that are around money. And that's where you've lost power, but it reveals your thoughts and to the point that it consumes you. So we can't get caught up in what we're afraid will happen, but this is what it's saying. Like your hypervigilance causes you to stay stuck in the mind, where your mind begins to chatter and loop and focus more on what you don't want, which is, or what you're afraid will happen. And so that is where the energy gets dispelled. It doesn't get dispelled on where you want to go, what you want to create. You can use that fear energy and turn it into fire by redirecting it. And when you redirect it, you're channeling it towards purpose. And that takes time. First you have to become the energy, and the energy, if you have hypervigilance, well, guess what? You're going to have to work through that energy because you're going to get overstimulated, you're going to get burnt out. Again, people that have hypervigilance tend to want to be perfect. They tend to try to be perfect because they haven't found their unique unfoldment process. They haven't found their essence yet. So Spirit says again, money has no energy. It's the essence that you bring to money. And that again is a reflection of who you are. So when we perceive that we're limited, then that's what will happen. But Spirit says no one can take what's yours. So people can project all that they want, but it's up to you to put the energy out there the best way that you know how. But if you're going to be consumed with lack, then that's a problem. And so again, Spirit says take time out for yourself. It's again, and understand that some situations that you have to go through by yourself so that you can again see yourself differently. And that only happens when you rely on yourself. You trust in yourself. And sometimes it's our past experiences that have given us the most knowledge, is what Spirit says. So, I think that, you know, you don't give yourself credit because Spirit's saying, look at this rising sign, shining sign. Trust in the universe's plan and follow your heart. So that's what Spirit's saying. It's like you want to do what you want to do, but you have a hypervigilance that you're going to have to do something else. Where really Spirit says, be in the moment. You're focused on what could happen, what did happen, but you have to be in a place of faith when meanwhile, what happens is when you're on a faith walk, you're only in the moment. You don't know how anything's going to happen. You trust the process. You have to have the courage to trust the process. And that's not something that's easy. It's not, because people that suffer from hypervigilance always feel like there's a looming agenda when really there really isn't, like because they were taught not to trust. So, like, is this person going to change their mind? Like, if you're relying on a person for a job, or am I going to work with people that don't like me? It's again, all of that, those core beliefs need to be healed, because all those core beliefs are what triggers the hypervigilance. And then when you're called to like perform or to act and you react from that fear space, you don't get good results. A lot of times you react from a past experience, which is what keeps you stuck in that karmic loop where you're like, this always happens. So again, paying attention to what emotions stir up when when you're like talking about like money, like it's paying attention. Do you worry about it? Can you acknowledge it without letting it like take over? Think about it, but don't worry about it. Meaning, like, you have to think about it because it's a part of life, but you can't worry about it. You can't give that energy more energy than what you give yourself, and that's really what you can ask. We can ask, what is your inner child trying to communicate about security through your money, through your habits, and what would it need from you now? Let's ask, because that's a really good question for that. So let's look at the inner child wound cards to be able to answer that question. Well, pull three. I'm being called to pull three, okay? We'll do one, two, three. Okay, so what is your inner child trying to communicate about your security? Okay, and what do you need to do now? Like belittled, neglect, and support. Well, it's again, it's like this is what it's like you're reliving. You didn't have support. Didn't have support, and and being that there wasn't support, it was like whatever you needed. So it's like, let's just say it would have been important for you to have a high school ring, and your parents were like, well, you're a crappy student, so we're not going to get you that ring. Or we're not going to, get you a yearbook, or we're not going to acknowledge. So again, the traumas of no support, and why I said that, because of belittling, growing up with emotional abuse, it goes back to those inner child wounds where, again, you didn't need to be hit. But if you were bullied and belittled, you have to ask yourself, are you talking to yourself the way that that parent talked to you? Are you looking at yourself the way that that parent looked at you? Or are you still conditioned from that environment that you lived in where you didn't have support? No, support, sorry, support. And that's really what it's trying to tell you. Now you can say, well, what can I do to, again, heal that energy? We'll pull another three. So again, understand that each stepping stone brings you closer to overcoming your fears. So learning, working with money, again, just going through the process, like everything, like it's everything that the universe brings you, forces you to be different, forces you to, adapt and integrate like certain spiritual things. And that means that if you're working around a bunch of people that are confident, you don't want to exactly go into a situation where you're not confident. You want to be confident too. And so you can, it's a lot of times you have to fake it till you make it. If it's a work thing, you have to have friends that, you can be really transparent with and get your emotional needs like outside your financial needs. Because unfortunately, it's the environment. We don't want to come into a place that we need to be confident because money has no energy. So if we're confident, we're going to attract money. We're going to get those opportunities if we're grounded and we trust the process. And so Spirit's saying it's like you have to flow with grace. It's like, anyway, go with the flow. You're navigating the difficulties with calm and acceptance. You can be at peace with yourself when you're in your passion. That second chakra, that spiritual center, that's right where the endocrine gland, the the prostrate and the ovaries. Well, that's the birthing center. That's the passion center. That's, so we can flow with grace when we're in the passion for life. It's like because your focus isn't on what you're afraid of and the lack. It's more on becoming, it's more on doing. And the action of doing manifests into something. Is that you're putting it out there the best way that you know how. Spirit says, use your voice, ask for what you need. So it also might mean you have to, with money, that the opportunities are there, but you have to ask. And that means that you have to ground yourself and might have to do the footwork where you do interact, like, you interact, you network, and you meet people. It's like that's the phase. The Spirit says it takes time, but it's about becoming yourself. You get to become yourself when you are actually grounded and you're interacting with all the things that are helping you become yourself because you're learning from all those different perceptions. And Spirit says that's what it is. It's like, this is what you have to do. Now, which financial choices today are you avoiding because of future judgment or blame? And so again, Spirit says, well, taking a leap of faith. Seeing, you might say, taking a leap of faith. Well, if you're trying to become yourself and you're afraid that you're not going to be able to continue to do what you love because of finances, Spirit saying it's because you're not moving. You need to ground. So take the leap of faith when you're grounded in your body and you're being led by your gut intuition and you're giving and receiving of love. You begin to see the opportunities. That part of that is that you're not taking the risk, so you're not getting the reward. And that's so, again, what I said is when we're in this place of feeling like there's not enough. And today we did more about finances. We didn't do about relationship, but we know that narcissistic relationships um, create hypervigilance. So if you're someone that has been in a narcissistic relationship, you definitely want to join my coaching program because you want to definitely heal and be able to, feel that support of the group, but also know that if you were around a narcissist for long periods of time, it wouldn't be uncommon that you had spiritual blocks within finances and other areas because that person made you feel inadequate. You've lived inadequately because living in survival mind, you weren't in the creative mind. You weren't able to be in the energy of love when you're in survival mode. So the hypervigilance is a sign of that. So you would have to actually like release the beliefs that no longer serve and support you because that's what's preventing you, not really the opportunities. It's more of the perception that you can't have then, and that will happen in your relationships as well. So Spirit saying it's like because the person you feel inadequate due to that hypervigilance when really there's nothing wrong is that their behaviorisms of being a martyr or overgiving or abandoning yourself or letting other people's emotions dictate you, and you don't want to cave in because emotionally you can't withstand that pressure. You can withstand any pressure when you're in the energy of love and in passion. It doesn't mean that you don't know that there are financial issues if there are, or if a relationship isn't working out. The difference is that you're keeping your energy at a very high vibration. And that is going to what allows you to quantum jump into a reality that you want to experience and really see beyond the illusion because that's all that it is, that it's an illusion because that reality is what you've lived or what you've experienced. But remember, not until you go through the experience and embody a whole new consciousness are you able to really see yourself differently, feel differently, completely clear the energetic template. And that's just the pain body when we go through those experiences. And that the pain body is held within that second chakra, our emotional center. So, what boundaries around money and resources would you like to heal? And if you could shift one belief about money from anxiety to empowerment, what would that belief be? You want to take tiny steps, to begin with so that you feel confident. So again, if around safety, with the like to nurture, well, we feel safe to nurture. Let's see, I want to use this deck. Nurture. Well, the inner authority to trust yourself. And that's what it really is. It's a faith walk. And that's why you were asked to have courage. It's like you have to trust yourself. You have to go through the experience alone. So you have to, again, believe in yourself. And that's what you're going to nurture. You're going to nurture that. And you're also going to go out and you're going to play. And the reason why when you go out and play, you find yourself. When we go out and play like a child, we again, there's no expectation. There's no anything. It's just we're doing it because we love it. We're doing it because, hey, we're excited about the adventure like a child. We go out into the world and we utilize what's available to us. And then again, then we are able to see a way where there was no way just for us. We see how the universe is conspiring to heal us. And that actually really does heal that hypervigilance, because what you see is that you're supported and that you're loved. It's like by an energy that what is actually your creator. Your creator is continually showing you the love and the support. So it doesn't matter what's happened in the past, that you're able to completely make a new reality, a new future for yourself. And so, again, if we wanted to add into the empowerment spirit thing, again, this is water. This is about your second chakra. It's about going with the flow of life, being in the passion for life, doing that more. So, your hobbies, your interests, your passions, again, things that are not considered work also, because if you just do work all the time, we can get burnt out. So Spirit's saying find the balance. That second chakra requires balance. It's about, you know, having other hobbies, having other interests, being interactive in your life while also creating yourself. Then your mind is so busy and you're already embodying what you love, that your mind actually thinks that you already have it. And so you're able to then become strong within yourself, because you actually see that you've manifested like a whole new life with not just the experience that you've created, but the friendships and the other things that, transpired in your unique unfoldment process. It's like hypervigilance, like healing it. It's really like we're doing everything. It's not just healing the mind, you're healing the body as well. And so healing, part of healing that energetic template is not just somatic healing, but it's actually really like embodying a whole other consciousness that's derived from that energy of unconditional love. I'm going to leave that there. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. If you're interested in one-on-one shadow healing coaching, please book a 15-minute free consultation. Only serious people about coaching. I will hang up if I feel like it's a reading. Some people try and get a free reading. I cut that out. Now, if you want a reading, I am open for readings. So you can check out everything by going to the description box and finding my website, pureenergyhealer.com, and booking there. All right. Until next time, be true to you. Love you. Bye.